Hey guys, it's Shaylin, and I'm back with my very first new album review. And I'm going to kick things off here with the brand new album Saviors from East Bay punk rockers Green Day. Now, I have to start out by saying that I have never been much of a Green Day fan. In fact, while I was doing my research and preparing to do this review, I took a look at my album collection to see what albums I actually have of theirs, and I only have the debut album, 1039, Smoothed Out Slappy Hours from 1991. I then have Kerplunk from the following year in 1992, and of course Dookie from 1994, which was basically standard issue to punk kids from Northern California. I think they handed it to you when you got off the fucking school bus.
Everybody on? Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful. No yelling on the bus.
And then American Idiot from 2004, a decade after Dookie came out. And even though I wouldn't consider myself a fan of theirs or a big fan, I've certainly always appreciated them and what they did to bring punk rock into the mainstream. Not to mention how the East Bay punk scene in the late 80s and early 90s is one of my favorite scenes of all time. There's a documentary about that, very historic time in music. You had Operation Ivy, you had Rancid, who Billy Joe Armstrong actually played with for a period of time, and then, of course, Green Day. But to be honest, I had zero interest in listening to this record, especially considering that, outside of my own personal non-fandom, people absolutely fucking hated their previous effort, Father of All Motherfuckers, along with a lot of really bad feelings towards 21st Century Breakdown, which was the follow-up to American Idiot, and then in 2009, and then Revolution Radio that came out in 2016. But after listening to this record, Saviors, a few times, I can honestly say this is the best thing they've done in 20 years since American Idiot came out. Definitely didn't change my life, but I had a really good time with it. And for a band as historic in the pop punk space as Green Day, this is a welcome return to form. It's fun, it's poppy, it's got some stellar punk tracks on it that are kind of reminiscent of what they were doing in the tiny clubs in Northern California, like Gilman Street, 30 years ago plus. And honestly, it's been a really long time since I listened to any record that got better and better each time that I heard it. And I mean, so far, that's been my experience with this. So that's kind of cool on its own.
Cool. Cool is good.
And I almost don't even want to say that there are many inconsistencies here, because when you hold this album up to the other albums that I mentioned, those inconsistencies are minute at best. But what I will say is that the best records on this are definitely toward the beginning into the middle. It's definitely front loaded. Look Ma, No Brains is a perfect classic era Green Day pop punk track that I can imagine them playing back in the day, early 90s. Bobby Socks kind of slows things down a tad, but still has that grimy, stripped down punk sound. One-Eyed Bastard seemed to sample a bit of So What by Pink. It did that na 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 thing at the beginning. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is not going to be good. Or it's like a cover of her or something. I was like, fuck, now they're doing that shit again. And then but it wasn't some shitty cover. It was actually another pretty well constructed track that I had a lot of fun with. And this just kind of keeps going for the next several songs. Dilemma, 1981, Goodnight Adeline, Coma City. They have one that could be a very fun kind of arena rocker in the future called Corvette Summer. That's pretty cool. It's nice to see them kind of remember who they are again, remembering to have fun, but also kind of honoring the past and moving into the future. It was a really cool experience. Now, out of the last 4 or 5 songs on the record, I didn't really care for those. But the exception is the best song on the whole album, which is called Living in the 20s. It's the best thing they've done since Welcome to Paradise. I fucking love it. The only reason I like Welcome to Paradise more is because it's just older and I've heard it more times. And then the other thing is, somewhere on the record, Billy Joe rhymes the same word 3 or 4 times in a row in the first verse, which... I mean, I don't know if everyone feels the same, but I absolutely hate that shit. And I don't care who does it or what genre. It's fucking terrible. And even the whole eyes, disguise, rise thing. I mean, it's the same word, and don't pretend it's not. I can't stand that shit. But back to basics here. This is the most punk rock they've been in 30 years. I love it. And I'm just really excited for what they did here. And I think old fans, new fans, fans of really every era of the band, I think are going to be pretty satisfied with this, because I think it's a strong record that kind of saves their career. And I think the title is definitely apropos, because even though they might not be the saviors of music, which I don't know if that's what they were going for, they certainly have saved themselves here. And that is something to be proud of, because they needed saving. They're a very important band. And regardless of if you're a punk fan, what genres you're into, I hope we can all appreciate and acknowledge Green Day for being who they are and just being such an important and historic band. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys do too. Check it out. And thanks for watching this. And yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Tell me what your favorite songs are in the comments, or don't do that. Just, you can hurl insults at me if you want to. I mean, that'd be mean, but I'm not going to tell you not to do that. You're adults. You can figure it out. And anyway, thanks for stopping by. See you next time. Cheers.